Listen, just because a rich guy told his kid to invest in QQQ doesn't mean you should. My name is Alexander Akaboga. Welcome back to the Engineering Basketball channel, the channel where you are spoken to by a degreed engineer and computer scientist working in the industry for over a decade and counting. In addition to my engineering and computer science degree, forgive me as I drive to the gym here. In addition to my engineering and computer science degree, I also am a former high school basketball coach, middle school basketball coach, and skills and development trainer. Right now, I'm a father really focusing on my young kids, my 2 under 2s, and just kind of like dumping my mind here on things that I know that were beneficial to me along the way, from being a kid, right, playing sports to studying and learning the game, playing at a college level. Sorry to mention, I'm also a college basketball player, former college basketball player. And then now also, teaching my kids the way that I wish I was taught, or the things that I wish would have helped me or put me over the ledge. But today, we're talking about rich people, right? Rich people. This goes back to a very important quote that I want everybody to understand. And it's not one or the other, but I think it's not talked about enough. This work-life balance. I think that's a luxury. I think a work-life balance is a luxury. And I will talk about the type of people that can have work-life balance, and the type of people that I think need to hustle down a little harder. All right. Talk about my advice. My advice really here is, it is really situational dependency, context dependent. Right now with the Iranian war, we all know that there's volatility, and volatility really favors the patient. It favors the aggressive. It favors all types. Really, if you can weather the storms. I work with a young engineer who's 22 years old. 22 years old. Me myself, I'm 33 with 2 children. I'm a married man. 22-year-old, not even 1 year out of college yet. Right, taking 2-3 weeks off to go to Asia with his college friends. Just different life, but comes from money. Right, dad makes a bunch of money, made a bunch of money in his 30s, 40s, 50s. His mom's a surgeon, so she makes, over $250,000 a year. So this guy has money. There's not really much he has to worry about. It's just kind of like protect the downside and try to uplift the upside. His dad told him, hey, invest in QQQ, open up a brokerage account, invest in QQQ for the future, because that's the growth. Me, myself, my wife, and I just maxed out our Roth IRAs. We maxed them out for 2025 already, but really I maxed my 2026 out, and I'm planning on working on maxing hers out as well. The question becomes, before I talk to my engineering coworker, I invested in VUG. Why? Because I believe it's a growth stock, but it's a little more broad, right? Not so tech focused. And I thought that's what we needed, or she needed, because, right, like I said, we have 2 children. We have 2 children. We're 33 years old, and we don't need to be that focused in tech. Very focused in tech for VUG, but not that focused in tech. More so growth stocks for VUG. And I started thinking to myself, because it's like, it's easy, but did you invest in the wrong stock? ETF, index fund, whatever you want to call it. Should I put my money in QQQ? Am I missing out on all these gains, or is VUG okay? Your life is not his life. That's what I'm candidly telling you. There are a lot of situations and a lot of specificalities, I'll say, that differ him from you. You did not make the wrong move by investing into VUG in your wife's Roth IRA as opposed to QQQ. First of all, he's investing in QQQ probably in a regular brokerage, right? Not a Roth. Different conversation. And 2, this is your wife's Roth. Don't be following what rich people do, and that leads to my point that I alluded to earlier. Rich people give advice based on different circumstances and different stipulations. They can easily say invest in QQQ because they have downside, they have cash, they have assets. They really can't lose, because even if that QQQ goes to zero, it stinks, but it doesn't break them. Now you This is your only money. You need to protect your downside more than they do, or in a different way is probably more accurate to say. Rich people really talk about the focus of balance. And I don't think you can be balanced when you're on the come up. And my friend who's an engineer is not on the come up. He's just kind of riding the wave. When you're riding the wave, just don't crash the boat, right? Just don't crash the boat. You already have the lead. You already have a head start if we're using analogies. If you do not come for money, which the majority of us do not come for money, you need to advance. You need to use leverage. You need to advance yourself. But you do not need to have this full balance of, well, make sure you sleep and make sure you rest and make sure you take vacations. Yes, I agree. But have a plan, man. Have a plan and a timeline for this plan, because I'm telling you, you don't have daddy's money, right? So I say this all to say is your plan is different from their plan. Everybody's situation is different, so do what's best for you. I guess a better basketball analogy that I can give, this is actually a good analogy because it's related to my engineering basketball mindset. It's saying that, like telling every player to play like Steph Curry. You cannot all play like Steph Curry. Steph Curry has specific skills and attributes that allow him to do what he does. If you're Jalen Duren, right, a center for the Pistons, and you're saying he's not good at basketball because he can't shoot like Steph Curry, you have different skill sets, Jalen Duren. Do what works for you. What will get you to success? That's what you focus on. Different skill sets, different attributes, different upbringing. You will be an absolutely very successful person if you are your best, not trying to be someone else's best. Okay? Curry is high risk, high reward, deep shots, right? Deep threes. That's QQQ, right? QQQ is deep threes, high risk, high reward. But most players just need fundamentals, man. They need fundamentals, they need structure, they need consistency. You need to get on the court to find what you do. But if you can't find your thing, if you can't do the basics to get on the court, you'll never find your Steph Curry skill set. So build those fundamentals, build the structure, build the consistency so you can get your minutes, right? Get that availability, right? To make an impact. So in short, you don't need logo threes, you need layups and defense, okay? And that's what VUG is. That's what my investment focus is for me and my wife. Layups, defense, and catch and shoot threes. In engineering, especially, you don't design systems based on like best case scenarios. No, you design for reliability under stress. Right? QQQ is high performance, low margin for error. Vanguard Growth ETF, still strong, but way more stable. So the takeaway I want you guys to take from me right now is really just you don't want to build your life on someone else's risk tolerance. Steph Curry can afford that. He has a name already. If he misses 4 threes in a row, he doesn't get subbed out. If you miss 4 threes in a row, you might get a DNP the next few games. Understand your situation. And I'll close with this. Winning isn't about picking the flashiest strategy. It's about picking the one that you can stick with for 10 years. If you have any comments on that, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the bottom what you think about this analogy, because I think it's really kind of genius in a way. Even though we're talking about index funds and ETFs, right, in the whole grand scheme of things, the real long-term, high risk, high reward would be like options trading, but in the bubble of ETF investing and in index fund investing, QQQ is the high risk, high reward. And VUG is still growth, but it's layups, defense, it's cutting, it's open threes. It's advantage play. QQQ is playmaker play. Get with it or get lost. Let me know what you're thinking about comments. Thank you very much.